Hey everybody, thank you for joining us today. I'm Paul Wildarczyk with DITA. You've joined our Ask the Expert series. Today we're very pleased to have with us Joe Gelb from Suite Solutions. Joe's going to be presenting on how dynamic content meets social engagement. We'll be talking about using DITA and subject schemes for classifying content and building an intelligent content system, and Joe's going to show us some real-world examples. So with that, Joe, thank you so much for joining us, and I'm going to turn it over to you.
Okay, thank you very much, Paul, and thanks for giving me the opportunity to speak. And also thank you for calling me expert. When I'm at home, no one calls me expert, so it's good to be online and someone can call me an expert, at least at something. So thanks for the opportunity to speak to you all. I'm going to be giving a presentation, which will, as Paul will be introduce, we'll be talking about particularly about dynamic publishing, about the subject scheme. We're going to show a demonstration towards the end, and hopefully we'll have a little bit of time for question and answers. I'm going to be moving relatively quickly, but hopefully everyone will be able to grasp it, and I won't be going too quick. When I'm in a room, I can see people falling off their chairs when I speak too quickly, but since I can't see you, so I'm going to I'll have to try to slow myself down. Or Paul or Skeeter can tell me to slow down. So first, a quick introduction. I'm from a company called Suite Solutions. We are a consultant and system integrator, primarily around DITA solutions, although we work with other types of XML authoring and publishing solutions, system integrating different types of content management. We have a focus on enterprise intelligent content, which is a nice buzzword for a lot of what we're going to be talking about today. And a lot of cross-industry experience. Here are a few of our customers, just to give you an idea of who the type of companies that we work with, and who have given us opportunities to get the extensive experience that we have at this point. So the main topics of today's discussion will be trying to define what dynamic publishing is, or dynamic content. We'll talk about contextual relevance, social engagement, I think as distinguished from social media. We'll talk about a relatively new construct inside of DITA called the DITA classification and subject scheme, and how that can work for us. And then we'll talk about a social knowledge-based platform and demonstrate how that can provide dynamic enterprise intelligent content. So when I went to create this slide and to create a presentation, I needed to find a definition for dynamic publishing, and I figured instead of trying to break my head and make one, so I'd go to Google, of course, and better yet, there's actually a site called thedynamicpublisher.com. So I figured what better place to go to find a definition of dynamic publishing other than thedynamicpublisher.com. So I went there, and lo and behold, there was a very long, and there still is a very long thread of people going back and forth trying to discuss and decide and haggle about what dynamic publishing is. So I went through that and picked out the nuggets and formed my own formulation about what dynamic publishing is. So this is the definition that sits best with me, anyway. Hopefully with you also. Dynamic publishing provides people, all of us, with easy access to contextually relevant information, enabling them to be effective. We'll talk more about that. It harnesses applicable business rules that are applicable to our domain, to our content and our products, our services, leverages automation to assemble different content on demand according to everyone's requests, and then can render and package that content and deliver that to any device, format, and language of choice. So that's a tall order to try to deliver on, and we'll talk about the different components or the ingredients that make up a solution that makes up what would be called dynamic publishing. So to put this in context, I guess inside of a DITA implementation in general, I'm guessing that a fair amount of you are either using DITA or XML and have given some thought to what it takes, even given thought, or actually put into place a system that implements XML. So often with Often with an XML implementation, you'll have in the middle a content management system or a component content management system, such as EasyDITA or other solutions. You'll have XML authoring of all kinds of different content, tech docs, training, service bulletins, all kinds of different types of content. You have some kind of migration into that content management system. And then towards the bottom, you'll have, let me see if I can get a little pointer here. Then towards the bottom, you'll have publishing out to different formats, PDF, help, and nowadays the big thing is getting things out to mobile format, EPUB. Okay, using either DITA Open Toolkit or using a tool called DITA Accelerator that was developed by Sweet Solutions. And then what we're going to be focusing on here is an output or a stream from the content management system of content into a dynamic documentation system or a knowledge portal or support portal. A system that again, it draws information from the main repository, is able to give sophisticated searching based on context, which we'll talk about, and then on demand publish to PDF, mobile format, EPUB, and down the line whatever else other newfangled output format comes out. In a more, I guess, more advanced or more comprehensive implementation, the sketch here would be added to an integration with other engineering systems. A lot of companies are producing products that are using PLM systems, product lifecycle management, ERP, CRM systems such as Salesforce, understanding who your customers are, change requests, things like that, and feeding this information in to the content management system. And again, the idea that this information streaming in and eventually finding its way to a dynamic documentation set essentially enables you and your customers and your internally or externally to have access, dynamic access to relevant content, whether it be tech docs and articles and service bulletins from the content management system, as well as maybe engineering drawings, maybe 3D animations, parts information, wiring information, or whatever is relevant to your organization, to your products and services. So this is just to kind of put in context what we're going to be talking about. We're talking about organizing, we're structuring an information architecture to that models pretty much all the information that we're interested in giving access to our customers for, and then providing a system, a model, and also we'll be demonstrating software that allows you to serve up that information in a contextually relevant way. Okay, so to define what contextual relevance is, the answer really is what they need and when they need it. What our readers need to be effective, meaning that we don't just want to give them information. We want our readers to be able to get their job done. In order for them to get their job done, it's interesting for us to know who they are, meaning what kind of user are they? Are they a technician? Are they a support professional? Are they a salesperson? Maybe what their security profile is. The proficiency level might be important. What equipment are they operating? If they bought a product of ours or a solution, which versions of that equipment, how it's been configured. What are they trying to accomplish? Are they on site trying to install something? Are they on the phone trying to troubleshoot something? Are they on a sales call helping a customer make a purchasing solution decision or putting together answering an RFP? And there could be all kinds of other parameters like location, environmental, things that feed into the question of what makes content relevant for the user when they're trying to get that information and get their job done. So, for example, I'll give a couple examples of a challenge for an information consumer. Let's say I'm a service engineer and I need to install a particular device, a valve, using a certain protocol with a certain controller, which may or may not be sold by the same company, maybe a complete third-party company, using a certain version of that controller. Okay, how do I get the information? How do I get that information that's relevant to me? Or let's say I'm a support professional trying to troubleshoot a certain smartphone that's being synchronized on a certain laptop on an operating system. Again, this is information that kind of runs across different types of products, and not necessarily this information may not necessarily be coming from one place. Okay, another last example here. I have some kind of a GPS. I want to update the maps using a certain protocols using Bluetooth while I'm on my trip to Europe. Okay, so these are all kinds of example of trying to get information that's relevant to what I need to do now. So business rules is how we, knowing our products and solutions and understanding how we can best provide that information, how we provide that information and when we provide that information. And it really answers back to the relevance question. Understanding who gets access to what information, when they get access to it, understanding what products they're using, maybe through a CRM system like Salesforce or something else. Understanding what our solution provides and how the solutions how the products fit together to form the right solutions. All these are different types of business rules that can be harnessed in order to provide information effectively. So our job as information developers is to employ effective methods to author that information, manage it, publish it, and towards that goal, structured and modular topic-based content is a great start. It's a world away from where we were a few years ago. I'm using a CCMS to automatically publish that content using style sheets either to various formats, pushing it out to a dynamic system. But we still need ways to mark up that content, categorize it, finding out and discovering and categorizing who is it applicable to, and when, providing links to other relevant information, and leveraging other experts inside and outside of our organization. Okay, so there's a few different approaches to categorizing content. One is called metadata. If I were to ask you if you've heard of metadata, so I bet a lot of you would be raising your hands. So we can use metadata and apply that to our content. If we're using DITA, we're talking about applying that to topics and to maps. The other thing we're going to be talking about today is subject classification, which is basically building a knowledge model of our domain and then applying it to our content. And then and the third option, which is really not such an effective option, we're not going to talk about it so much, is using conditional attributes. In parentheses, I like to mention that people often are tempted to use conditional attributes to mark up content, but for various reasons, technical reasons and ideological and theoretical and everything else, it's not such an effective approach. So we're not going to be talking about that, and I would steer you away from doing that. Okay, so the first option is metadata. I assume a bunch of you have thought about metadata, or maybe are even using metadata. Metadata is a fine construct. It's data about data, and some examples, particularly for DITA, are audience, category, keywords, product information, and then you can specialize other new elements as needed. So here's an example in XML, in DITA XML. Let's say I have a topic called installing this valve. So I have an audience. I have a category, which is an installation, which would say which type of topic or which type of task it is. And then I can have all kinds of product names and brands that would be used for the searching and for the filtering to take place. So I assume a lot of you are familiar with this type of construct. Okay, but the problem is, how can we relate this information to equipment that's outside the realm of this particular device? For example, device controllers and the version of that controller, meaning the vertical solutions that it can be used on, which are not necessarily in my control. So the metadata limits me in that it's hard for me to plant information inside of my content that either I don't know about or I don't have access to, or that I just don't have the time to really mark up and maybe not be the right person to be tagging that. In addition, what happens when my device starts getting supported by other devices, by other products, by other configurations, by other use cases? Should I feel required, or do I need to be required to open up my content and retag everything? There's got to be a better way. Okay, so what I just said basically covers those bullet points, and therefore the best practice would be to maintain these categorizations and relationships outside the content. Now, a lot of us are used to doing that already, meaning those of us who are using DITA understand the construct called a relationship table, meaning when I want to relate content or topics to each other, an alternative to creating cross-references or hard coding see also links inside the topics is to using relationship tables. And relationship tables are effectively making connections to content outside the content itself, outside the topics itself. And that's the same paradigm we're going to be talking about today. Okay. Okay, so what we're going to introduce a DITA classification subject scheme. We're going to get a little bit of background first. So the question is, what's information architecture for content? So a lot of people have an opinion maybe of what information architecture is. I'm going to offer an opinion or I guess a perspective on information architecture for content on a macro level. And information architecture would be a method for organizing content, whether it be text or media, video, into some kind of overarching knowledge model. And then the model is created and maintained separate from the actual content, kind of like creating a global index. Imagine like you had an index with all kinds of index terms, and you were able to apply that index that you built, all those terms, and the relationships and the C-alsos between those terms, and just apply it to different books and to different types of content. It's the same idea. It's basically thinking about what your content is talking about and what your content is documenting or training or whatever, and based on that subject matter, going ahead and applying that model to the content that exists, as opposed to creating content and then deciding, what's inside of it and then marking it up. So the first level of doing that is organizing content by hierarchy and relationships. Okay, and we're all doing that already. Meaning, if you can think of a DITA map where a table of contents as being a hierarchy, and relationship tables being relationships, that's definitely the first level. The second level is organizing our content based on subjects, and then relating the content to those subjects. Now, oops, okay. I keep hitting the page down button and it's being very stubborn. I'm sorry for that. So a subject is anything. It's a thing, it's an entity, it's an idea. Well, for us, it's a product, it's a feature. It's anything that we're documenting about. We'll talk about that next couple of slides. Okay, I just figured out I have to press this 3 times in order to get this to move. Okay, what is a DITA classification scheme? Yeah. Okay, so this DITA subject scheme is used to define the sets of controlled values for classifying content, for deciding which which topics talking about what they're talking about or what they're trying to document. Now, I'll show you a sketch of this in a second so you can visualize it. Subjects are defined in the subject scheme map. Okay, notice that subject scheme is a DITA map, okay, which is something we're all familiar with. Subjects are organized in a hierarchy, which is like a taxonomy, and then relationships can be created between those subjects using relationship tables. Again, a construct that we're all used to. And the nice thing about it is that the subject set can evolve to adapt to new situations and contexts, which corresponds to the idea that we can use topics that we've already created in our repository and use those topics for new deliverables, new books, or new publications as new products or new situations or new contexts arise. So it's the same idea. Similarly, like we use DITA to reuse content, the idea here is to create an index or a subject matter map, and then reuse content based on that and how the content is classified according to our hierarchy or our subject scheme. We'll talk about that. Classification is the idea of identifying subjects inside the actual topics. Okay, so the topics are classified in maps and not in the topics themselves, and you'll see how that works. Those of you who participated in one of the I guess the last expert series, you were introduced to the subject by Amber Swope, who gave a nice presentation about how that works. We're going to review some of that, and you'll get to see that in action. So here's a sketch of how this works. Let me get my red ball back. Here we go. Okay. So if we think about our DITA topic, there's little blue balls on the bottom. Okay, and DITA topics can have links between them, either like hierarchy links, like in a map, where I'm going from one topic right to another topic, and then having relationships between them, like in a relationship table. Okay. So we also have up here a subject relationship. So I can have products and product versions, or operating systems and and versions of the operating systems, or features, or anything that can describe what's being discussed inside the documentation, like what the documentation is about. Okay, and then we have the classification, which drives between them. So I can say this topic is talking about or discussing how to install a version of a certain product using a certain operating system, for example. Okay, and this operating system can be supported by this product, or this product it runs on this certain operating system. Okay, that's the idea. Okay, so similar to DITA maps, subject schemes can be modular and distributed. That basically means that you can allow other business units to develop and maintain and utilize those parts of those taxonomy that are relevant to them. Unless they have a bunch of different products, product teams, or business units, where I have systems that are describing this information, I can basically pull this information out and put it into one big scheme and use that to categorize the content. So it's a way of distributing the model and distributing the effort among different types of SMEs, of subject matter experts. And the nice thing is also that you can draw this information from other enterprise systems. For example, product lifecycle management systems often have a bill of materials or a product tree. Often this content is useful for defining the products and the parts of the product and maybe features of the product. Or a CRM. A CRM often has information about customers and what products those customers own, maybe different with different problems that customers are having that can be somehow linked in and help us in creating content or updating content. We can grab information from parts catalogs and ordering systems. So the idea is that information about our content can be drawn from many different sources. Okay, now we're going to get into the technical part, and we're going to talk a little bit about how it looks really in DITA. So you guys who really want to see how it feels inside DITA as DITA content, DITA markup, we're going to see that. So a DITA subject scheme map is basically, like we mentioned before, a specialized DITA map, which defines a collection of subjects rather than topics. Okay, and then you can define the different types of hierarchy using has instance or kind or part, or basically just describing how the hierarchy works. Okay, so for example, here I have a subject scheme, a snippet of one, where I have several different products. The products are broken down by versions of the product, but those products are also organized by market segments. Okay, so I have a market segment, and then I have different market segments, and within those market segments I can go and define or specify the products and the versions of the product. Okay, that's an example of a subject scheme map. Okay, similar to DITA maps, where you can have a hierarchy, you can also have relationships. Okay, and those express relationships between those subjects. So for example, I want to express the relationship between a product and a user type, meaning these types of users would use this product, or components of my product and the functions that they're meant to support. If I'm having an application where I want to serve up my content for troubleshooting and support, then I might want to make links between symptoms or error codes and components of the system that might be generating those error codes, and what type of troubleshooting procedures might be relevant in order to hunt down and solve those issues. I'm actually going to show you a sample of that, so you can see how that works in action. So from the coding point of view, this is how you would see it. So this is basically a relationship table. If you're using an authoring tool such as XML or other types of tools, web-based tools, then often the relationship table would be shown as actually a table. But the markup looks something like this, where you have a header which describes the relationship. So I have a feature that is related to a user type, and the type of relationship that is suitable for. So a feature can be suitable for a certain type of user. Okay. Then I would go ahead and set up those relationships. So I have, these are different features, preloaded maps, speak street names, etc. And that's relevant to a global traveler. Now,
welcome to GoToWebinar, web events made easy.
You would start clicking on the left, and it would start asking you to look what are the features that are relevant to you. What do you most care about? What are the price ranges that you most care about? And a lot of people call that faceted search, but in a more sophisticated level, especially from a technical content level, not just a sales level, then by creating these relationships, it gives you a lot more power. It gives your users a lot more power to hone in on exactly the content that's relevant to them. Okay, so we talked about defining a hierarchy and defining relationships, and we talked about being able to make relationships between those different types of subjects. So now, how do we actually go and classify our topics? So I have a DITA topic. A good old DITA topic is a task, and the task is instructions about how to update maps in my GPS. Okay, now that topic is classified by being relevant to this particular product and relevant to this, I guess, protocol you would call it, or I don't know what you call Bluetooth, but this type of protocol. So this task talks about how to update my maps using this product and using this protocol. Okay, so that's how you would classify using a map by subject. Okay, now you can also associate topics with subjects. It's getting a little bit further down the complexity level, but you can also create relationships between topics and subjects. So in addition to being able to classify your content like we just saw, you can actually use relationship tables to make more sophisticated types of relationships. So for example, let's say I have a troubleshooting task. I want to make a relationship table between troubleshooting tasks, which are actual DITA tasks, DITA topics, and then classify them in a relationship between product and interface. So if I'm using a certain product, using a certain interface, for example, I have a device and I'm using a handheld mobile device in order to run that product or to configure that product. Okay, the troubleshooting tasks that are relevant to that. If I'm using the same product, but I'm using a laptop or some kind of a Windows interface, what are the troubleshooting tasks that would be relevant to that interface? Okay, so you get the idea of how you can make much more robust connections between your content and how the content would be used. Okay, here's another example. I have a task. Phone does not connect to the device, so I'm relating it to the product and the protocol. Okay, and the interface. Okay, we've passed the hard part of this session. Okay, all that DITA content markup gobbledygook stuff, but hopefully it gives you a little idea of how it works in practice a little bit. But at least give you kind of like a little feel about how that works in the actual text, in the actual markup. But now we're going to talk more about the application, and we're running out of slides. And then we'll move into the demonstration. So we talked about classifying our content. We talked about pushing our content out to some kind of a platform that allows you to do filtering, allows you to do publishing on the fly, and allows you to leverage business rules. But how about social engagement? So how can that help us? So the idea that can help us in a couple different ways. First of all, we can't be everywhere at once. We know a lot about our own products. We know how they work. We know how to install them. But we don't know all the potential use cases for our products. Now we're working with a customer now who they have a set of products, the solution. They sell them to factories that are produced. But they have no idea, how they have hundreds of customers, and all their customers, or most of their customers, are configuring the products and to form their own solution. There's no way that they can get a handle on all these different use cases, and then to provide support and documentation to support all those use cases. Okay, so social engagement, or allowing our customers to go and give us information about that, or donate content to our knowledge base, helps us and also helps them, and it also helps our potential customers and other customers. It can also help by building up our knowledge base with contributions such as how-to articles, tips, videos. There's some online services these days. I think I know iManuals or something. I forget the names of them. Where you can go and you can actually go ahead and write your own document and how to run a certain device or a certain consumer product. Okay, so. But here it allows people to go and add their own articles. I found a certain issue with the product, and this is how I got around it. Or I bought this product from your company, and I found a new use for it, and it's really, really cool, and I want to share that with other people. Videos and other types of media. It also can improve the quality and the timeliness of the knowledge by allowing people to make comments. Let's say I have a topic out there, and people can make comments. Yeah, this was really helpful. Or here, there's a step here that you might want to, that maybe was skipped here. Here's a step that you might want to add inside your topic. And you can signal approval and find out who is using the content. Let people spread the word to other people, other their users, people in their organization that might find that content useful, et cetera, et cetera. Okay, so you might be thinking, or at least I've heard people say, okay, well, how about a wiki? Can a wiki provide this kind of social, engagements effectively? And so the truth is, yeah, wikis can help to a certain extent, and a lot of people over the past couple of years have tried to get wikis to work with some degrees of success. And the nice thing about wikis is that it allows information to be provided on a modular basis. It also allows customers to modify or internal customers also, people inside your organization, to modify that content themselves. That's all really cool. But the problem with wikis is that there's no easy way to extract those changes and incorporate them into your source content set. There's also no easy way to control and authorize those changes. Comments and articles that are submitted by one person or one customer may not be relevant to all customers and contexts. So there's very difficult, I don't know of a way to do real contextualization inside of wikis. Okay. Also, it doesn't allow customers to build their own documents and training for multiple document content modules. We'll see how you can do that in another alternative platform. And it's difficult to customize the format and usability of those different types of content. It all behaves the same. Okay, and there's no way to make that content really interactive. At least not that I know of. Okay, so social knowledge base, which we're going to see very shortly, allows you to, or should allow you to, provide a variety of content, documentation, videos, how-to article, safety information, marketing stuff, whatever you want to throw up there that's relevant. It should be able to absorb it, manage it, and serve it up to your customers. It should allow subject filtering, leveraging the subject scheme that we just talked about to enable quick and goal-oriented access to that content that's relevant. It should allow you to personalize your document, allow readers to assemble their own content on demand, and then render that content to PDF, either for printing it or to download it to their smartphone or to their iPad for offline mobile access. Believe it or not, there are places in this world that don't have internet access, and it's very often important for technicians and other people to be able to download content and then go on site and be able to use that content that's relevant to them. And then allow audience participation, allow audiences to add content, make comments, express approval, and everything we talked about. Okay, I'm going to shut down the slides, and we'll move to the demo.
While we're switching over to the demo, if anybody has any questions along the way, please just type them into the question box on your GoToWebinar control panel. And we'll either answer them in text or we'll answer them along the way, or we'll answer them at the end.
Great. Okay, so what you're seeing, what you should be seeing in front of you is a platform called SweetShare with a kind of a branding. Kind of like a demonstration branding, and I want to kind of walk you through how a system like this can work based on what we've been talking about up until now. Now, most knowledge portals that I'm used to anyway allows you to go ahead and type in a search, and then based on that search, get a series of search results. Okay, so we're going to talk about the search. And how we can do an advanced search based on our subject scheme. On the first page, you'll notice here that you can give access to people to add content that we talked about, maybe add articles, For people who have authorization, maybe add a manual and videos. It allows us to see new content that's been posted. It allows me to have my own little bucket here called My Docs to collect content that's relevant for me, and then go ahead and print it to PDF, or put it to a mobile device after I've organized it and in a way that's relevant to me. Okay, that's the basic framework which we're going to be talking about. So at this point, I can go ahead and I can just start entering a search thing, install transmitter, until I've done this demo a couple times. Okay, and I can click on search. Or what I can do is say, you know what, let me go to advanced search and try to hone in on the search on what's relevant to me. So I can, okay, you know what, this is what device or what product am I using? Now, by the way, this demo we put together in conjunction with one of our customers who is a very, very large organization that's grown by acquisition. That's probably a story that sounds familiar to some of you guys in the audience. But as they've been growing in acquisition, they have several different brands of all kinds of different products, many of which, you know, talk to each other and some of which don't. Okay, but they have customers now running around with a whole smattering of different products, different devices. Now they have to go figure out how to, you know, pull out content from a database that will be relevant to one or more devices that they have stuck together into their solution, maybe using a host system, and maybe patched together using a certain type of communication protocol. So I can go in here and say, you know what, I'm using a micromotion device, and I'm doing an installation, and my installation is being done using this protocol, using this communication protocol. Okay, so show me all the content that's relevant to me, all the content that's relevant to installing a micromotion device using this protocol. Go. I click on this button. Okay, I get search results. Okay, now the system, what you see here is probably familiar in a couple different ways. First of all, it shows me search results, which is interesting, especially after I just did the search. But it also shows me the subject scheme or the subject mapping that we built in a interface or in a paradigm that people are used to these days. So you know what? So people are used to going into a website and ordering a new camera or a laptop or clothing or something, and they're used to going in and narrowing down 3 billion choices using this kind of faceted search. Okay, but here there's not really faceted search. This is a filtering system that is based on the subject scheme map that you built, and will be filtering based on the relationships you made and based on the classifications that you built inside of your content. Okay, so I see here that based on my search or my filter, there are 4 topics that are relevant to micromotion, Profibus, and also installation. Okay, and I can go and I can start looking at this. So here I can click on this and see the search results. My system wakes up. Here we go.
So Joe,
okay.
I have a question.
There we go.
So is this more appropriately a filtered view onto the information than a faceted search?
Correct. Yeah, this is a filter view. It's not a faceted search. It looks like a faceted search, but it's not. It's a much more complex filtering, search and filtering based on your knowledge model. But it's using this faceted search GUI paradigm. Okay. So at this point, since all of our content is in DITA, or it's in some kind of a format or it's in a structure that's topic-based, I can go ahead and just right here view the content. Okay, or I can go and say, you know what? Let me turn off the protocol here and see what other results I get. I see now there's 38. When I remove that, I see there's 38 topics that are relevant to installation. But I say, you know what? There's really also, I'm doing configuration also while I'm doing installation. So I click on configuration. I now have only 7 topics that are going to be relevant to me. So I click on this. I can see the topic, and I can go ahead and read it, do what I need to do, and get done, and then close down and go home. Okay. I can also go ahead and add comments right from here. Okay. Like we talked about, that's the social engagement part. Okay. Or I can go ahead and add this to my bucket and say, you know, this is a content, this is a topic or a task or a procedure that I'm going to be doing often, or one of the tasks I need to do for this particular client that I'm going on site for. So let me go and add it to my docs. Okay, and then I can have my list of content, which I can go ahead and order. And then when I'm ready, go ahead and print a PDF or an EPUB on the fly and download to my cell phone. Okay, so I'm going to go back to the search results. Okay, now one of the things that I can do here is also open the entire manual. Now most systems that we're used to, that I'm used to anyway, is that once I do a search, it gives me search results, and then once I click on this, it pushes me into the manual. Okay, here it allows me to view that content right from this interface here, from the search results screen, or I can go ahead and open that manual and view the entire book and move through it like I would any other kind of online manual, along with the ability to add comments. Okay, so this is a way that we can use what we've talked about in practice. Again, putting modular content into the repository, filtering it based on our subject scheme, allowing people to add comments, and then pulling content together into a bucket and allowing me to create content and or pull together content from a multitude of different books and different documents and form the content that's useful for me. Now, let's say I use the content and I'm using the product and I want to go ahead and add content to the knowledge base. I just did I'm a support professional. I just did troubleshooting with a customer, and I just figured out how to solve a problem that I never saw before. And go ahead and click on Add Article to those people who are authorized to do so. And I can start create my own article, troubleshooting or fixing the 9739 while using Delta V controller under water. Okay, while driving. Okay. By the way, just a disclaimer, you should never fix a 9739 while you're driving. Okay, so that's illegal. You're not allowed to talk on your cell phone or fix 9739s while you're driving. Okay, actually I better get rid of this. I don't want someone to sue me. Okay, so I can go ahead and type in my article and add graphics and make tables and do everything else. But the cool thing for now is that I can go ahead and mark up or classify this content using the same scheme that we talked about before. So I can say, okay, I created this article. It's using Delta V. It's using a micromotion 9739, and I'm doing a troubleshooting. Okay, and once I add that article, this content, this knowledge article will be filtered and available and accessible to everyone in the database in the portal, just like all the other content that I, as a technical writer, went and pushed my content into this repository. Whereas maybe support people created videos and marked up the videos and classified them and give access to them. Okay. What I'd like to do is show you another implementation of this. Okay. First of all, this is the actual branding for a customer. So this is an interface that can be branded any way that you like. There are different customer brandings that we put together just so just to match the customer's look and feel format. What I'd like to do is show you another implementation of this, which I think is kind of cool. It's a demonstration we did for VMware in connection with a company called Outsights. Outsights is a consulting company that specializes in helping support professionals to do troubleshooting much more efficient. And they particularly specialize in helping customers like VMware, Cisco, large companies whose products are integrated with other third-party products, and where support professionals need to go in and provide tier 1, tier 2 support as quickly and effectively as possible across a variety of different types of solutions. Okay, so this is using the same ideas that we just talked about during the presentation, but with an interface that's slightly geared in a different way. So in this case, I'm a support professional, so I'm going to type in a complaint. Okay, or I can go ahead and click my context. I can say, okay, you know what? This is the product I'm using right now that I'm getting the problem with. Okay, Now once I set my context and click Go, okay, I get a slightly different view, not just slightly, I get a very different view of the content, okay, but it's really underneath the hood, it's really working in a very similar way. Okay, I have the list of potential issues that I may be finding based on that product. But I can also go ahead and start saying, okay, based on the context, I can see different, based on the tasks and the observations and events, okay, what's relevant to the problem? Okay, does this apply to my problem? Well, no, it's not. It doesn't apply. Error code 2 observation log, and getting that problem every time. Yes, that's relevant. And also, yeah, it also happens after I'm rebooting. So I click on yes. No, that is not relevant. And then anytime I can go ahead and I can click on this button, reorder, and it automatically filters based on my input to the system of what might be relevant. Okay, and it's driving down the potential issues that might be the problem. So, oh, you know what? Yeah, this looks like it might be a problem. I can click on that, and I would get the knowledge base article that's relevant to this problem. Or I can say, no, this isn't relevant. Let me go down to the next one. Yeah, this might be relevant. Okay, and at the end, I can click in whether this helped my problem, yes or no. And this information that I'm entering, whether this issue and this troubleshooting issue fixed my problem, and the information about the different observations that I'm finding, the different tasks and the different events that I'm sensing, that I'm seeing. All these things are recorded by the database and can be used using metrics and trends in order to help the support professionals to better hone in on problems. They can find trends to see what kind of problems are becoming very relevant to a certain customer base, maybe after a certain release, and use that information to better provide support, to go ahead and maybe mark up this content a little bit differently to make it more relevant to different types of issues, or in an automated way build a system that's able to use these trends in order to automatically basically build these relationships between these subjects, and then provide a better filtering, better and more effective filtering. Okay. If I click on View the Solution, it gives me the solution in the knowledge base article. Basically, it gives me the problem and the possible solution, and I can go down. Then, if I'm a support professional and I'm authorized, I can click on Edit, and then go ahead. You know what? I can go ahead and add more clues, or change the way this is classified based on information I'm getting from the field. Okay. And again, this is a way that a support person or a company can go and in real time go ahead and react to or leverage information they're getting from the customers, and making the entire database much more effective.
So Joe, quick question. So you're actually editing the subject scheme classification at that point through this user interface. Is that correct?
Exactly. You're editing the classification. So we talked about before that, whereas the metadata is inserted inside each topic. Okay, in order to change that metadata, you would have to actually open up that topic, change the metadata, and republish it.
Right.
Here, since the model is based on classification being outside topics themselves, then at any time I can go ahead and change the classification of the topics, add or modify the classification of the topics according to my knowledge model. In this case, it's a model of troubleshooting and support.
So we've got a few questions from people during your presentation.
Sure.
So the first question is, where and how are your comments persisted? Where are they stored?
Yeah, that's a great question. So it really depends on your tool set. Okay, I mean, many people who are implementing DITA are using a content management system, and the idea is that the comments would be flowing back into the content management system, so the authors of the content can go and see those topics, those comments, react and make changes to content as they see fit. So that's one way of doing it. Other customers we've talked to who are not necessarily using a content management system or want the comments to be managed outside the CCMS, inside of another outside-facing portal, so that in that case the comments would be persisted and would be maintained only inside of the system. So it's really up to the particular people who are implementing a system like this.
Another question is, can you only print single topics, or can you print entire maps?
Yeah, that's a good question. So, yeah, so you can print an entire manual, and this system right now, that I'm showing, is configured that that you're able to, you're basically printing out the content that you're pulling out together. But it's definitely possible to and in this system anyway, it's definitely possible to be able to add this button to the manual level, and either print out the entire manual or print out or create a PDF or an EPUB for a certain section of the manual. There's definitely a possibility.
That's great. And then when you add articles, so you showed the example here of a subject matter expert, in this case a support rep, adding an article for not, repairing something while you're driving it underwater. Where are those stored? Are those stored in the CMS, or are they stored on the portal, or does it depend on the implementation?
Yeah, it's a great question, and it's really the same answer as we talked about for the comments. The content that's created inside the system, whether it be comments or a knowledge base article, you as an organization need to decide in your policies. Do you want to bring that in and manage that inside your CCMS along with your workflow? Do you want to not allow that to be public until it's gone through some kind of a workflow and then pushed back out to this system, or do you want it to be managed and completely in the system? And there's good use cases for both of those. If the people who are creating the content are the ones who are really controlling how it's being viewed, then it probably makes sense for the content, for these comments and knowledge articles to flow back into the CCMS and be managed based on the workflows inside the CCMS. If the content is being, if this portal is being managed by a support organization, a completely different organization, then it may make sense for it to be managed within this particular system, but also be able to slurp that stuff out to the CCMS. So it's really the same answer as we talked about before.
Okay, great. And then the last question from the audience so far is, what metrics do we collect based on DITA awareness, and how do we display them?
That's a good question. So the metrics, I'm going to try to understand the question. So if the person who asked the question, if I'm answering wrong, you can type into the chat window and maybe.
Yeah, and Jason, if you could clarify the question, that would be great, either in chat or in the question window.
Yeah. So can you read the question again? I'm sorry.
The question was, what metrics do we collect based on, oh, he's giving an example. So can we see metrics based on navigation through the subject scheme? In other words, so we know how the content's organized. Do we collect any information about what's relevant, I guess, based on what people have viewed?
Yeah.
And also ratings, right?
And also what history?
Well, I'm saying I imagine looking at the ratings. So
the rating history.
His example specifically is, can we see metrics based on navigation through the subject scheme? So in other words, can we see how people are getting the content? Can we trace how people are navigating the site? Yeah,
that's an excellent question. And the answer is yes, meaning it's going to go back. That's exactly what's going on here. Meaning that the reader here is going through and clicking in yes or no, this information is being snapped up and recorded, and that can be that's part of the metrics, right? So it's not just what did I click on in order to, which topic did I click on to read. There's also gives you a way to collect the information about how they got to that. The idea here of an issue record, which is not implemented yet, is the idea of actually showing the recording of the information as they're clicking these and narrowing down the clues is being recorded here, and they're actually seeing it. And then the idea is that they could actually type in notes here. maybe clarify more how they're getting to the problem, or maybe type in issues that they are finding that may not be in the set of clues, etc.
Excellent.
This is a system we're working and developing in conjunction with this company called Outsights, and they have a lot of very good ideas about how these types of metrics can be collected, and we're basically implementing the system that we're talking about in order to collect the metrics that we're talking about in order to find the trends. I hope that answered the question.
I imagine it did, because we didn't get a response back, so hopefully it was a good answer. Let us know if it didn't answer the question too, please, Jason. Okay, I don't see any other questions, and we're getting up. And Jason says thank you, so you answered his question. That's great. Joe, this was great. You know, I've seen it before, but I actually learned things through this too. I mean, it was interesting that what we're really seeing here is a filtered view on information that also allows you to collect social information. It's great, and I think the use cases that you showed were outstanding, and also struck the distinction between, you know, where is the content maintained, right? You know, in the case of a support organization that's maintaining the information, you know, they would have the content and the metrics and the annotations maintained in their portal. And if the information development organization is maintaining this information, it would be maintained back in their CCM solution. I think that's great. I did have one more question. When you've got a contributed article like the one that you showed, you know, the underwater repair situation, how is that being stored? Is that DITA? Is that XHTML?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a good question. So it really depends on which control you put on here. So right now we have an HTML control, okay, which allows people to. The reason why we did that at this point, anyways, it makes it much easier for people to basically copy and paste content in from other sites if they want to. But the idea is also that if you are able to plug in a DITA-aware web authoring client like EasyDITA is providing, then the content would be in DITA and would be stored as DITA. Great, excellent. Okay, right now the system is supporting HTML. It supports some kind of a couple other tagging markup schemes. And again, like I said, if you put if you link in a DITA-aware editing scheme, then it would be definitely stored as DITA. Excellent. And viewed as DITA.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time today to join us. You know, we're right at the top of the hour. If anybody has any other questions, please email us. I'm going to actually throw one more slide up here with a couple more things for us all to look at. As soon as I get my controller. So really quickly, the recording of this webcast will be available later this week through our website. You'll get an email and hopefully you're not seeing all of the GoToMeeting noise on my screen here. But you'll get an email with a link to the recording of this webcast. If anybody that you know has not had a chance to join us, if they register after the event, they'll be able to view the recording for this or other previous webcasts, and those, again, are all available on our website. The slides for this will be made available on SlideShare, and if you look at the bottom, Joe has also got another excellent presentation on subject scheme classification specifically that's out on SlideShare. We've been referencing this for a while. People have found it very useful. Our next webcast is September 26th. Please join us for that. We'll be going over the results and the analysis of the State of Collaboration survey that we've been running the last several months. If you haven't had a chance to take the survey yet, you can go to our website and watch the slider on the home page, or go to this short URL here to get to the survey. It takes about 15 minutes or so to go through. It's a fairly extensive survey, so hang in, but we've gotten some fascinating results. Over 100 people have taken the survey. About 75 or 80 people have completed it, so we'll have some very rich data to share on how people collaborate, what issues they face, and how XML and DITA in particular can improve that process, and looking at the state of adoption of some of these best-in-breed solutions. So again, thank you for taking your time. Thanks for joining the webcast today, And hopefully we'll see you on our next webcast in September, or we'll see you at CIDM Best Practices on the 9th through the 12th of September in Monterey, California. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day. And Joe, again, thank you so much for joining us. This was a great presentation.
Okay, thank you very much. Thanks for joining. Thank you.
Take care, everybody. Bye-bye.